Hello, everybody, and welcome to United Talks podcast. And today we're going to be doing the match preview for the game between Everton and Manchester United, and it's going to be promises to be an interesting game. I mean, it's one of those games where it looks like obviously Manchester United are on a revenge mission. We're on a mission to actually salvage, what would be an embarrassing game if the game went not as planned. So basically, it is a game where we actually need to kind of redefine our season and continue this unbeaten run that we're in and all of that. We could talk about like long unbeaten runs. We could talk about um, Michael Carrick's consistency in his winnings, considering that he has coached 8 games for Manchester United and all of that and is still unbeaten. So many other things, right? But then let's start from like the nitty gritty. Man United are basically on a revenge mission to get a win against Everton at the Hill Dickinson Stadium, just as Everton in the reverse fixture beat Manchester United 1-0 with a man down at Old Trafford. So it's going to be an interesting game. So if we're going to talk about the season for Man United so far, right? Currently, Manchester United sit fourth, Everton sit eighth. And Everton has 10 wins, Man United has 12, with 7 draws, and Man United have 9. I mean, only we could convert our draws to wins. And then with losses, Everton have lost 9, Manchester United have lost 5. With goals, Everton have scored only 29 goals, Man United have scored 47. Average goals per match, Everton have 1, Man United have 2. And then average goals conceded per match, both teams have conceded 1. With regards to XG, Man United smashes Everton with 45.46 XG. That is expected goals, and we've scored 47, while Everton have 30.86 XG, and they've scored 29. With regards to XG per 90, 1.75 to Everton's 1.19, and clean sheets, Everton have 9, while Manchester United, and those clean sheets probably came in their wins and their draws, while Man United have 4. So pretty much like different sides of the game, right? But then we're going to go to kind of head to head and historical context, just kind of like talking about the game and what we expect from the game and everything in between. And you know how we do it with our dashboard here. So with regards to this game, Manchester United head into this game, obviously Manchester United, everything head into this game on the back of 4 wins and 1 draw for Man United and 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss for Everton. Basically, in the last 9 games, Man United are unbeaten in the Premier League, while Everton are in they lost the last game basically against Bournemouth 2-1 at home at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. And it seems to me like Everton are good or are better away than they are at home, because basically all their wins and their draws came away and their loss came at home. So they seem to kind of struggle, to win games at home, right? So it's pretty interesting what it feels like with regards to that. When it comes to like the other aspects and the other stats for Everton, we could go on and on talking about like the different, statistics and all of that, analyzing what we can see on our dashboard. In the head to head, obviously, Everton has 69 wins, Man United have 96, while there's been 51 draws between both teams. Also, with the goal scoring progression by minute, Man United seem to score most of his goals towards the end of games from like 61 to 90 minutes, while Everton score from like 60, like 50, like 60 to 90 minutes. And then the other goals are spread across, with the highest for Man United after the 13 goals were scored between 61 and 90 minutes, coming from the beginning of second half to like so basically from like 31 to maybe like 46 minutes and all that. But Everton, basically, theirs are evenly distributed. Their goals are evenly distributed from 1 to 15. They scored 2, and the rest. And the next highest is from around the same time, from like 29 or from like 30 to around like 46. So it seems to me like Man United's goal distribution goal progression by minute interval is basically progressing and is evenly distributed across board. Now, in the last 5 games for both teams, Manchester United have won 2, drawn 2, and lost 1. So we beat Everton in the past 2-0, 4-0, 2-2, played 2-2 draw with them the last time, played 2-2 draw again, and then played and lost to them 1-0. So we seem to have a pretty good record with 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss against Everton in the last 5 games. Now, heading into injuries and players are not available. Obviously, Patrick Dogu has an hamstring injury and is going to be back in April, while Jacob Bryan is red carded. He got a direct red card and is going to miss that game as well. And then Jack Grealish, broken foot, I think he's out for the season or something. Then you have Mason Mount with a knock injury, potentially going to be back, as it has been rumored throughout the week, as we had 13 days before the next game. Matthijs de Ligt is still out and he's working his way back. Apart from that, everything seems to be, nice and dandy. With regards to top team ranks, for goals for Everton are 15th, while Man United are 3rd. With 47 goals, Everton have 29, as I said earlier. With assists, Man United are 3rd with 33, Everton have 22, 10th. And then with yellow cards, Man United are 34th, while Everton, Man United are 20th with 34 yellow cards, while Everton are 11th with 48. And then with red cards, obviously, Man United are behind Everton with only 1 red card, and that came against Chelsea. And since then, we haven't had any red card. With regards to, I think Man United have 1, Everton have 4 red cards. And then with regards to saves, Man United are 18th with 54 saves, while Everton are 10th with 65 saves, which means that Everton face more shots than Man United. And with regards to total shots in the entire league this season, Man United are number 1 first with 386, while Everton are 15th with 265. So it's going to be an interesting game. You look at, just as I said, the last 5 games for both teams, you could tell Everton have been a bit up and down, with a 1-0 win against Aston Villa that beat Man United, 1-1 win, a 1-1 draw with Leicester City at home, and a 1-1 draw with Brighton away, and 2-1 win against Fulham away, and then they lost a 1-2 to Bournemouth at home. So it's pretty interesting. For Man United, in the last 5 games, we've basically scored, we've considered 5 goals, and we scored 13. Because we scored 2 against Manchester City, we scored 3 against Arsenal, that's 5. We scored 3 against Fulham, and that's 8. We scored 2 against Tottenham, that's 10, and 1 against West Ham, that is 11. So basically 11 goals, conceding 5. So we need to lock it up at the back as well. Anyway, moving on to how Everton play under David Moyes. We're going to talk about that. We're going to break it down, and we're going to analyze everything in between. So how does Everton play under David Moyes? Now, since returning to Everton, David Moyes has implemented, a tactical shift focused on defensive stability, high intensity pressing, and a more controlled attacking build-up compared to his predecessor, while maintaining his trademark defensive compactness in 25-26. In his 25-26 side has basically integrated technical players like Jack Grealish, obviously he's injured, to also create a more dynamic, sleek style of play and emphasize possession in the opposition third and quick interchanges. Now, with regards to the tactical overview for Everton based on the 25-26 season and how they've played, in the formation and shape, they primarily line up in a 4-2-3-1 in possession, and this often also shifts in possession to a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-man backline, allowing fullbacks like, Mikalenko to actually push higher as a wing back, while attacking midfielders drift into central pockets. They also control possession, unlike the previous long ball approach. Moyes currently focuses on playing out from the back with centre backs like James Tarkowski and Jared Brantwaite, as well as Michael Keane, having seen a significant increase in touches, an average of +13 to +12 and +12.90 respectively, especially for Jared Brantwaite and James Tarkowski, as they are encouraged to carry the ball forward rather than clearing it long. Obviously, with their striker Barry, it's obvious that they are shifting away from all of that. With regards to their attacking dynamics, the left side is more of an overload for them, left-sided overloads. Everton attack heavily down the left flank with 42% of their attacks utilizing the combination of Jack Grealish and Keenan Dewsbury-Hall in attacking mid to draw defenders in and create space for the switches to the right, which kind of deals with the pace of and skill of Iliman Ndiaye. With direct efficiency, despite the focus on short passes, the team remains direct, often bypassing midfield to find target man Thieno Barry, who is 6'5", and he uses his frame to win aerial duels and stretch the pitch. Now, with their defensive rigor, Moyes has actually, retained his hallmark mid to low block, and the team prioritizes horizontal and vertical compactness, frequently demanding so much from the players and defending as two banks of four to force opponents wide. Key performers this season, obviously, with regards to their shots, their high turnovers. With regards to that, under the former manager Sean Dyche, their average possession was 40%, but now under David Moyes, their average possession is 44.3%, and shot quality basically has increased to 0.15 from 0.08. High turnovers has increased from 7.2 to 8.43, so they basically give you more of the ball and then sit back in the mid to low block and then pounce on you with the pace of Iliman Ndiaye and the frame of Thieno Barry. Open play crosses per game, they have 12.7 under Dyche, and now under Moyes, they have 7.5. And then winning position time is 19% under Dyche, and their winning position time has increased to 63.1% over time. Now, we're going to talk about the predicted lineup for Everton before we go to their key personnel or key players for Everton. So, predicted lineup for Everton facing Manchester United. Lineup in the 4-2-3-1 goes like Jordan Pickford in net, James Tarkowski and Jared Brantwaite in the back line. Jared Brantwaite back from injury. It could potentially feature Michael Keane, but based on the last game, it's Jared Brantwaite we're going with. And then you have Mikalenko on the left. And then we have Patterson on the right. Patterson, I think, played the last game with James O'Brien playing in the middle of the park. But Patterson now, with O'Brien out suspended, is potentially going to be the right back. And then you have Idrissa Gueye and James Garner, former Man United player and Man United Academy graduate. And then you have Keenan Dewsbury-Hall, the goal scorer against Man United at Old Trafford, who is very tricky. Once he breaks, he shoots and all of that. The guy signed from Leicester City to Chelsea and from Chelsea to Everton. And then you have Tyreek George, another Chelsea graduate, who basically is going to be playing. He came in during the January transfer window. He started the last game. He's most likely going to play in the place of Jack Grealish, who is basically injured. And then you have Iliman Ndiaye, who's playing on the right. Then, obviously, we have Thieno Barry. This is a guy that I like because of his resilience and his consistency and his persistence. He looked a bit like lanky and he looked a bit scared when he joined it, giving you that Chido Obi vibes. But he seems more athletic, more driven, and he scores goals and he believes in himself a lot. And for David Moyes to have given him more game time ahead of a certain Beto, Brazilian player who's it tells you how good he's been doing and how much effort he's been putting in training. So, Thieno Barry, good player for them. Now, key players to watch for, Everton in this game. One of them is Iliman Ndiaye. Iliman Ndiaye positioned, just behind the striker. Ndiaye has flourished under Moyes, scoring basically 4 goals in 519 minutes, compared to 4 goals in 1. That is basically 688 minutes under the previous manager. Now, he's played 22 games, 1,754 minutes. He scored 5 goals with 2 assists. Maybe I expected him to have done more, but obviously, we could not count out the fact that he went to the AFCON. But he scored in the last game against Bournemouth, which they lost. I think it was the penalty, but they still lost. So, 25-year-old Senegalese is a key player from Everton, and he's one player that I think most Man United fans were kind of rooting for to join Man United because, cover the right side. He's a winger, he's athletic, but I always used to think he's very injury prone. But this season, he seems to have played, I think, 22 games, all competitions, and maybe in the times when he's been out at the AFCON because Senegal went really far and all of that. It goes to tell you basically the kind of player that he is. Other players that I mentioned, like I mentioned earlier, Tiano Barry, used as a physical focal point, to hold up play and to provide a platform for the second ball wins in the high press. Is basically one of the key players for them. We should not underrate him. Another one is Keenan Drewsbury Hall as well. When Jack Grealish is not there, he seems to be the one to always step up for them. He's very aggressive. James Garner as well. Idrissa Gueye as well will not want to make the same mistakes he made in the last game. So it's going to be super interesting to see how the game pans out and all that. It's going to be super interesting. Anyway, we head back to basically how Manchester United play under Michael Carrick. We've talked about this a couple times. We've talked about this a lot. But then since returning to Manchester United as head coach in 2026, Michael Carrick has, revitalized the team, and by abandoning the 3-4-3 system of Ruben Amorim and then focusing more on his balanced and expressive 4-2-3-1 formation. Basically, this formation has not been without its own lapses and holes. His approach focuses on restoring, positional discipline, simplifying player roles, and implementing a safe first pass doctrine to provide structural stability, which we've kind of seen. The core principle is centered around the 4-2-3-1 that often transitions into a 4-4-2 or a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-2-3-1. No, a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-4-1-1. Basically, compact low block defensively. The shift has also notably benefited Bruno Fernandes, who has been restored to his number 10 role, as we have seen in this past couple of months, with the freedom to actually attempt creative through balls, which obviously, if you look at him, even under the previous manager, he still does the same thing. He still creates through balls, still creates opportunities for others, and he was still highest chance creator in the league while in the previous regime. Then with regards to possession, it's more controlled, influenced by his time at Middlesbrough. Carrick has demanded that the team keep it neat and tidy, and play that kind of brand of football, So in possession, I often line up in a 3-2-5, as I talked about severally in several videos, where he does the asymmetric formation where there's a fly fullback and a stay fullback as well. Or over individual duels, the team basically remains very, very controlled across the park. With one fullback who slides across to form a back three, while the other advances to provide width. And most likely, it is in the person of Luke Shaw who provides the width, and Diogo Dalot drops in deep to join the back line. Speaking of the back line, the defensive compactness, unlike the high pressing demands of the previous regimes, Carrick employs a mid to low block defensive compactness that prioritizes manipulating space and individual duels. The team also remains vertically compact to cut off passing lanes to the opposition's midfield hubs. Then, with regards to the pressing IQ, while not an aggressive high pressing team, United also uses curved runs from forwards to cut centre back passing options, forcing errors rather than chasing the ball aimlessly. Now we go to the predicted lineup for Manchester United going to Hill Dickinson Stadium, based on what we've seen on social media, as well as the traveling squad that we got to see. I'm not going to tell you about traveling squad because I haven't kind of seen that list, but I saw the breaking news about the traveling squad, and maybe if we get the opportunity to do that, we will do that. But then, obviously, the predicted lineup for Manchester United ahead of the Everton game is basically like this: St. Lawrence in net, and then you have Harry Maguire and Martinez. Harry Maguire went out with Maguire went out with a hamstring injury in the last game, right? But then he played it down, and basically we saw him come back, right? And then Licha Martinez is in the back line as well with Harry Maguire. Then you have Luke Shaw on the left, you have Dalot on the right. And then, like I said, 4-2-3-1 on paper. And then Casemiro and Menu in the midfield pivot, as well as Mbumo on the left this time around, because we saw that in the last game where Cunha played up top. You could switch it up anyhow, anytime, anyway. And then Bruno Fernandes playing as the 10, and Ahmad holding and hugging his right side. And then, obviously, in the attack, we have Matthijs Cunha. Now, key player. Key players for Manchester United heading into this game. We will not go without stating the obvious in Bruno Fernandes. Basically, the engine room of this squad, the key player that makes everything tick for Manchester United. He's played 25 games, and like I've said in several videos, this is the season where he plays his least amount of games that he's played for Manchester United ever. So Bruno Fernandes basically is the key player for today. He plays 25 games. He's played 123 minutes so far this season with 6 goals and 13 assists, 12 in the league, right? 13 assists. He scored in the last 2 games. He scored a goal in the last 2 games. Fortunately, he didn't get the assist for the previous game against West Ham, but he's been very creative in the game against Fulham and against Arsenal. Right, was very creative. Created the goal for Patrick Dogo, the banger against Arsenal and stuff. So yeah, that's key player number 1. Another key player that we cannot ignore is the importance of Bryan Mbeumo. Bryan Mbeumo has been very key to Man United. In the last 4 games, he scored 2 goals, and he's been very instrumental. He scored against Spurs, and he scored against Arsenal. And Mbeumo is the kind of player that has scored against top teams, against the big teams. He scored against Arsenal, he scored against Spurs, scored against City. He scored against really big teams this season. So he is going to come good. He's played 22 games. Even after going for the AFCON and coming back, he still delivered 22 games, 10 goals, 2 assists, in all competitions after playing 1,857 minutes. And it felt like, bro, this guy hasn't, missed anything. He just went and came back, and he's been doing really good. So, yeah, Bryan Mbeumo, key player for Man United. Other key players, and based on their key roles and how functional they are, Kobbie Mainoo, basically. We're not going to forget that one. Kobbie Mainoo basically has been recalled into the starting lineup, acting as a pressure-resistant link alongside Casemiro in a double pivot. But another thing I don't want to... I maybe I'll leave this for my final take on this whole thing. But with the forward roles, new signings, Matthijs Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo have also been utilized as split strikers or narrow wingers who occupy half spaces to confuse opposition defenders. And sometimes we see the team line up in a 4-2-2-2, and you could tell, basically it's just kind of like different structures, different phases. I mean, we saw Michael Carrick bring on Lenny Euro, and we became more advanced that we had 2 defenders only, and the rest were all attackers, including Bryan Mbeumo playing as right back. Defensive reliability, obviously, we've been heavily reliable, we've ever relied on heavily, and over time relied on Harry Maguire, and you're seeing his return to the side to provide, basically experience and aerial dominance within Carrick's more conservative defensive structure. So basically, Man United has, done amazing things in regards to basically doing a good job against big teams. Now, so it is teams like Everton that are below us that we need to actually tackle, and this is where the points are very crucial. So with regards to how we can beat Everton, it goes without saying, Everton have also obviously transformed into a mid-table powerhouse, currently sitting 8th in the Premier League, and they've evolved from just a simple direct ball team into a sophisticated unit that overloads the left flank, and with star power like Jack Grealish. Obviously now we have the new guy from Chelsea, but every wall has a crack, and basically we're going to show you exactly where to strike. And here are 4 tactical strategies to dismantle this Everton side, or to dismantle the Toffees at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. It's not going to be an easy game to play, but we're going to give you 4 tactical strategies. The first tactical strategy is to isolate and overload the right flank. Basically, Everton's current system is heavily biased toward the left side, where Jack Grealish is, Kenan Hall is, even the new guy, what's that his name? Basically, Tyreek George, even Tyreek George as well, they combine to progress 42% of the play. So this often leaves their right-handed or right side. So if it's their right side, that most likely is, where Ahmad can take, full advantage. Often leave their right side underloaded and vulnerable. By attacking quickly down your own left wing, you can isolate Everton's makeshift right back in most likely James Garner or Patterson, depending on who David Moyes decides to go with there, before their defenders can actually shift over to provide cover. So basically, they either rely heavily on Njai on one side, or rely heavily on Tarek George and Mikalenko, and they will leave Ahmad, very open. On the other side, they will leave Mbomo open. So we need to, take full advantage of that. So we need to also do that. And then number two is we need to neutralize Iliman Njai. He acts as, the main guy, the focus guy who drives the ball, intentionally drawing multiple defenders towards him to create space for others instead of committing to attackers and leaving gaps elsewhere. He utilizes disciplined mid, we need to utilize a disciplined mid block that prioritizes zonal marking or zonal tracking, not zonal marking. Zonal marking, they can just rip us to bits, right? So zonal tracking, and if you can limit the progressive carries, that Iliman Njai has, then we can effectively sever the connection to their dangerous strikers in Tiano, Barry, and most likely if they use Beto, but I know they'll use Barry against us, and I don't think, basically based on experience and everything, Barry has anything on, Licha Martinez, right? Then the next one is to exploit. That's number three, to exploit slow defensive transitions. That's another thing we can do. While Everton are physically dominant in a set low block, right? They struggle when forced to run forward, run toward their own goal. Bournemouth recently exploited this in their 2-1 win over the Toffees in February 2026. This month, this was the last game. So we need to focus on winning the second ball. Now we've rested. Now we're well. We have enough energy to deal with them. We need to also ensure that we win the second ball in midfield and then immediately launch vertical passes into the space behind James Tarkowski or Michael Keane or even Jared Brantwaite, who can actually be exposed by pacey elite level wingers, especially for Michael Keane and James Tarkowski. And then for defense, or the fourth aspect of our strategy to actually defeat Everton, we need to defend the low cross and set plays. Under David Moyes, Everton have become, the league's third highest creators of chances from cutbacks and low crosses. So our defensive units must maintain and remain vertically compact in the box to block these low deliveries. Additionally, with 50% of the Premier League goals, coming from Moyes' structured attacking routines, maintaining discipline during dead ball situations is actually a non-negotiable for a clean sheet against Everton. We need to maintain discipline during dead ball situations in this game against Everton. We need to emphasize on that. Now, there are certain things that I saw in previous games, particularly against Fulham, against Spurs, most likely sometimes, and against West Ham. The space that is being left when we are pressing, when we are without the ball. Sometimes that space, if we leave it open and Everton capitalize and come central through James Garner, who is able to pick a pass, Keenan Drisby Hall, who is strong enough to actually find a way to break and drop a shoulder and shoot, or Iliman Njai, who has the pace to stretch the pitch and go wide, then there will be an issue, especially if they come central to pick the ball and then they go wide. And that is where Kobe Mainoo and Casemiro need to be very disciplined in dealing with that kind of thing. If not, they're going to sting us and it's going to be bad. So, yeah, that's pretty much my take. Now, to my predicted scoreline for this game. I predict it's going to be a hard-fought one, but it's going to be a revenge. A hard-fought 2-0 win with goals coming from both halves. Our record will now be that we've gone up and we don't drop points. So basically 2-0, both goals coming from both halves, and most likely one coming from a set piece, seeing as we seem to be scoring more set piece goals this season. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. Predicted 2-0. Let me know your predictions. Let me know your predicted lineup, and we'll continue to build momentum as we lead to the Everton game. One thing about this Everton game is the fact that all eyes are going to be on Man United because it's a Monday night game. It's the last game of Premier League week. So all eyes are going to be on Man United. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. If you haven't already, please do like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't have to miss anything. We'll do these deep dives every other time. Take care, goodbye, and God bless.